And today I have a man who has been, well, instrumental within South African hip-hop. We're talking about a music mogul from the 90s, one of the most outspoken individuals around right now. Let me tell you, one of the loudest voices, and somebody who I really enjoy following and checking out his content. I'm talking about La Vida Nota. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good and you, man. Sorry I'm late.
No problem.
I needed to go to the bathroom. And then always after I go to the bathroom, I need to take another shower. So, and then I was rushing and then I got out. I was like, oh, damn, it's 10 to.
I feel
and I'm only getting out of the house. And then on my way here on the highway, I had two choices. Either I take, what's this road? The Woodmead off-ramp.
Yes, sir.
Or I go into Marlborough.
Yeah.
And I was like, I saw on Waze there's a little bit of traffic, but I'm like, it can't be that bad. Usually there is some traffic. Oh, 100%. My goodness. That took me another 15 minutes, and I was shaving it down. I was going to be like 15 to 20 minutes late, but then I ended up being like 30.
Nah, as it goes. But you know what they say. Good things come.
I'm a North Side hip-hop guy.
Love that.
On the 20th of June, 2008, I launched the Alias's first album.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm just
That's
saying,
power right there, brother.
I'm just saying that FIRE thing, I launched that. Yeah.
My gosh.
You understand what I'm saying? I was busy interning at Gettho Ruff.
Okay.
While I was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to go to school at Metropolitan Rauco, which is in Brixton.
Yeah.
Just close enough to Auckland Park, right?
100%.
Yeah, so after school, I'd go to the Henley Studios,
yes.
right opposite SABC.
Yeah.
And then I'd be chilling there with Lance, and he'd be telling me stories.
Oh my gosh.
All day. I'd be telling him about the internet and telling him, oh no, there's this new thing that's coming about. I think Ishmael had just released a gospel album. I was like, hey man, there's a new award show called the Crown Gospel Awards. We should submit for Ishmael. He's like, oh okay, well then submit for it. Like, stop telling me about it. I was like, okay, fine. Printed out the form, submitted for Ishmael, and he ended up winning the award there. And then Elias was working with Bongs in studio, and some other guys. They were called the Glitz Gang at the time. Mm-hmm. What's his name?
Muggs, Tito.
Muggs and El Tito and Morale
Pages.
as well.
And
so they used to hang out at a restaurant called Wish in Melville all the time. And they were they were making Muggs' album at the time, and then Elias was also making a project, but Lance wasn't too keen on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't too keen on it because, it was like a distraction from Josie and also a departure in terms of sound. Mm-hmm. And he was like not sure about this crunk sound, like the full crunk. He was like, let's mix crunk with Maskandi or anything else that's African, at least stick it closer to the roots of Josie. But the guys, were determined. And because I was in high school, I was like, yo, Lance, my generation actually loves this stuff. You know what I mean? All the kids in high school are really vibing with this. So after they released Tippy Toes, and, it did kind of well. It didn't really do well, like, everywhere, because people are like, oh, what is this? But us, as the young generation, as the kids, we were really down with it. And I was like, no. We need to put the whole entire album out. I'll even organize an album launch for it. And then we did it at Black Orchard.
Okay,
at Northlands Deco Park. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, man. You're taking me on like a heavy nostalgic trip, because I was across the road at ASC in the SABC.
Oh, yeah.
So I would come over, and I spent a lot of time with Bongs in the studio and just soak in the energy of
Malik, Amu used to come around all the time, to visit, there was a lot of activity
100%.
happening there.
Do you think like Gettho Ruff played an instrumental role in creating this hip hop movement that we saw in Joburg City? I mean, when you look at Gettho Ruff, no. Okay.
The reason there's hip hop in South Africa is because of Tusk Music, which is the company that started with Lance before there was Gettho Ruff. Yeah, that's Prophets of the City.
100%.
So there's no hip hop in South Africa without Lance Stehr. And Lance Stehr benefited from the fact that he was a white colored during the apartheid era. His family was separated from the rest of their family because if you pass the pencil test as a colored person back then, you could then move and then you had to abandon your entire family, abandon the whole entire thing.
Oh, snap.
But he had kafarar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was in the white suburbs, in the white neighborhood, but he wasn't as white as his parents, or his family.
Mm-hmm.
So he still gravitated towards, his own culture.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of political activity in the mid 80s, from like 1983, 1984 onwards. I wasn't even born at the time, but I know from my own family history that's when my uncles got radicalized, and started being part of things like the SACP, etc., or the band organizations. And then so they, I think, started in 1987 or 1986, and South Africa was still in a state of emergency at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And because, he had a little bit of white privilege, as well as street smarts, as well as, a need to get back to his roots, he pushed forward and took advantage of that opportunity and became, one of the forerunning black or non-white music executives at the time.
100%.
And without him, we wouldn't have black record labels in this country the way we have them. You look at record labels like TS Records. The T in TS Records, TK, used to be doing promotions for Gettho Ruff back in the day. And even now, the new age and the Amapiano movement, a lot of them, start their own record labels. They do distribution deals with whatever distributors they're doing them. And they've changed the narrative where, black people actually have more ownership in their music than in the past.
Beautiful.
So when the Elias came out, that was like the second coming of the North, because the first coming was TKZ.
No doubt.
So TKZ, they benefited from the fact that, Screamer Shabalala was living in Fourways, close to me. The studios were in Bryanston, Chris Kalakis' studios. That's where Sbu Maloya and them were. Okay. And then the TKZ group was founded at St. Stithians, which is another, North private school, an elite school. And they had this musical genius called Lance McCormack, a white guy, who was their producer at the time. And then by the time Zwei had moved to St. Stithians from Drakensberg, they had the makings of a trio that could straddle both the Kasi lifestyle and the new emergent black bourgeoisie that was being established. I mean? That's what TKZ did. They still had the Kasi credibility from all the guys from Soweto. I mean, Kabelo was from Soweto. So he was moving between the hood. He was, when democracy came, there were a whole lot of multiracial schools that started, and then like black kids would travel in 4 or 5 taxis to go to the northern school. You know what I mean?
I was one of them.
Yeah, exactly. So you knew you had to live that double life. You were nice. You were a cheese boy eating Melrose.
That's what they say.
Mom remember Melrose. And when you go back to the hood, it was back to reality. Back to survival. I lived that life vicariously. I was introduced to TKZ by a white friend of mine called Raymond Falcarelli. And Raymond's grandmother was the head nurse at Naledi Clinic in Diepkloof in Soweto, and she also used to take care as like the personal nurse of Tatu Walter Sisulu.
Oh wow.
So she used to be our lift club lady, because we lived in the same neighborhood. And my dad, as an entrepreneur, couldn't pick me up from school. So, I mean, from 1999, 2000, 2001, in those times I used to be picked up by Raymond's grandmother and go home with her.
Wow.
They were staying in Bridgetown, which is part of Blobosrand, where I grew up. I was on the other end of Blobosrand, on Dromedaris Avenue. And so I got, some political education as well, directly from Tatu Walter Sisulu.
Power.
As well. Power. Old man.
Yes, sir.
And Mum Adelaide,
Okay.
No, Abigail Sisulu, sorry. No, Adelaide Tambo. It's because I'm just thinking about her because at the primary school I went to school with her grandson, Sasha.
I see.
Tambo, yeah.
Wow.
And so that's Dali Tambo's sister's son.
Imagine, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, the country was emerging.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so happened to be fortunate enough to be around all the people that were instrumental in how this country's future was being formulated as well.
When I'm listening to you, I'm picking up so much, like, I want to say activism, but I would also like to say political awareness. So much awareness that you're mixing in also within the music industry. It's quite an amazing thing. And the question then becomes, what happened to that type of content within music? Because when you speak of the POCs and them, their music was centered around such conversations as you're having.
Finally, a black press. Yeah, money. There's enough money to fund the degeneracy.
True.
And that's all there is to it. So as much as TKZ was party music and everything else, and Kwaito was party music as well. There was some message in it. You know what I mean? You've got guys like Ebas, Don't Call Me Cafe.
Yes, sir.
I mean, like out of all the songs that he did, that for me was the most, political. As well, and also risky. The rest of the stuff was really dance stuff. The other stuff was more social, as in like what people are observing within their own communities and their own societies. And as much as we've lost that within our music, we've also lost that within our communities. We don't have family values like we used to.
True.
People just living for themselves, surviving themselves, and that's what money has done. One of us in the family is going to make money, and then for that money we need to leave the rest of us behind. And then all of a sudden now, as siblings, we're competing and we're looking at each other. Oh, I'm the one with the degree, I'm the one who's got a nice job, and you guys are letting us down, and you make me pay back tax and stuff like that. And like, we've lost our ubuntu. And so I've been trying my best to conscientize those that I can and tell them that we need to actually fight to reclaim the identity that was created for us during the Mandela administration. I mean, that was supposed to be a whole new era
100%.
for us, and we're on the cusp of becoming, we are still, we're the second wealthiest black nation in the world, right? America has got richer black folk than us because obviously the currency is concerned, but we're a majority black nation.
100%.
We got a similar black population as America has. They've got like 38 million blacks. We got just under 43 million blacks. Here, you've got countries like Brazil. That's the most populous black nation outside of the African continent, and they've also got the second largest black population in the world after Nigeria. And you've got countries like Ethiopia, which is another black nation. I mean, they don't have the same population, I don't think, as Egypt, but Egypt is an Arab nation. So we're half of the population, or just less than half of the population of Ethiopia. I think they're at 110 million. And we're much wealthier than them as blacks. So there's no better place for a black person to live in the world than South Africa, because of the fact that we're the second richest, but we're also dominant from a demographic perspective here. So from a cultural perspective, you've got black culture dominating here, and black culture is what you need to make everything happen. All the richest white companies, they're rich because they've got black customers. Capitec Bank is one of the fastest growing banks, one of the biggest banks now. Customers,
definitely.
Black. You know what I mean? All the pension funds, the people that work for the state, the teachers, the nurses, all of that stuff, that's funded by black pensioners. And we just don't actually understand how much we contribute to this economy because we don't have a vested interest in the ownership of it, even though we actually do own it. Like, people don't understand that, when the Public Investment Corporation invests in a company, that's pensioners' money, but those same pensioners don't know that that's their money and that's their ownership, and they don't actually speak on behalf of themselves when the company is having AGMs or any of those sorts of things. When school governing bodies are voted in, it's usually the white parents who advocate to be in those positions. Not the black parents. When it's parents' meetings, the black kids are the ones whose parents are less represented than the white kids, and all of that stuff is because we don't understand the role that we have to play in creating our society. And that's the reason why it's so easy for people to use money to fund degeneracy and like bastardize our communities.
I see you 100%. And one thing that I'm very firm believer in is that South Africa, we're a very young democracy. You're looking at us at about we're 30 years old as a democracy. When you compare us to America and the time that they've had to develop the economy as a democracy, the United States of America, they've had a long time to get themselves onto a solid foundation and a solid ground. Now, not to say that you look at the United States and that's the model that you would want to follow as a nation, because their cultural beliefs and just their beliefs in general is not something that us as Africans should be holding as close to us as is pushed upon us. We should be more embracing our African side, our own cultures, or who we are. I think that's the very important thing. And you look at the city of Joburg and they're crying about a moral regeneration program, but moral regeneration has to begin on all of the most basic levels, where you talk about education, you talk about entertainment. Those are the basic levels where people are consuming culture and content that may be changing their moral standards. That's something that you'd have to consider and perhaps change before you start lecturing to people. So I believe we have a long way to go, but we've come in such a long way in such a short space of time. It's amazing what South Africa has achieved. And as you say, amazing nation for any black person to live in, or any person, in fact. I think that was the dream of Tata Nelson Mandela with the Rainbow Nation, is that any person could come and live here happily in peace. We have the best constitution on paper in the world. I think it had won awards when it was drafted. So South Africa has so much to offer, and we're developing. Now, I want to take you a little bit back into the north side hip hop things that we were speaking about, as I'm celebrating the brothers and the impact that they've had on the game. And the question that becomes is, okay, this is what made Northside hip hop, or has represented Northside hip hop for so long. Where to now? Where is Northside hip hop going?
It's dead, man. I think we should forget about it. Look, let's look at it like this, right? We got freed in the 90s, right? So the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Bill in America, I think, was signed in 1964. Okay. So 1994 is 30 years on from that, right? So now we're 30 years on from our democracy. Now look at what happened to America at the time, where they were fighting for civil rights and then they got them. Right? Yeah. Till 1994. What started happening?
It was crazy, man.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I think there was even like riots in LA, there was the Rodney King, you know what I mean? So they lost that in that 30 years. Yeah. And then look at where they are now, 60 years later. Now, look at where we are 30 years from our freedom. The 100%. Euphoria has really stopped us from actually looking at what is really important. We've been too busy partying and dancing.
I see you.
So reclaiming that is going to take us, descending to the same depths that necessitated the revolution. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, things are still too good.
I feel you.
And they need to get a lot worse for people to actually demand the change that is necessary for us to uplift ourselves. So the best we can do right now is, establish core values that we can uphold and try to model, so that by the time everybody else is ready, you know what I mean, we still have those established core values and we've held true to them for long enough for them to know that they work,
100%.
And that's the best we can do. I mean, look at it like this: all the nightclubs, all the record labels and everything was in the north, so it was destined to be the center of where the culture is consumed. That's where the money is as well. People who've got the disposable income for entertainment, you know. But since then, it has moved to the hood because the hood has established itself. It felt isolated for the longest time. So the hottest chisanyamas are all in the hood.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know? And I'd say even in the East Rand in particular, because, you know, there was so much focus on Soweto that people forgot about the East Rand. And then the East Rand said, oh, if you forget about us, we'll do it without you.
No doubt.
You know, and you know, that's where, like, there seems to be a lot of culture. Amapiano comes from the East Rand,
Yes,
you know,
sir. Yeah.
despite people saying, no, it comes from Pretoria. Pretoria has got an important role to play in South Africa's culture, and especially youth expression, because I consider it the lungs of South Africa.
Okay.
That's where all the students go.
Yeah,
Right?
no
all the
doubt.
technicons, universities are all in that area.
100%.
So that's the lungs. When it's school time, the lungs breathe in.
I see you.
Right, and then when school's out, the lungs exhale, and then everybody goes back to wherever they come from, Limpopo, KZN, the entire country, you know. So that is like another respiratory system. The north is another respiratory system. It's like it brings in people from everywhere else. The problem with that is that they don't go back. You know what I mean? You know, they don't, like, okay, at least they try not to go back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, okay,
feel
once I'm in the north, I've made it. I'm going to stay here, right? And it's about maybe bringing in more people there. But they don't go and take that privilege that they now earn by living in a more affluent area to invest back in the poorer areas.
Of course.
And that's what's lacking. So what's needed is the people to take advantage of what they can gain here. I mean, you need to move here either way to work. You know, if you want to start gigging on a regular and making decent money, you need to be around here because this is where all the things are happening, right?
True.
But then take that money and invest in ensuring that the community that you come from is also uplifted, because that also creates a reciprocal cultural exchange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You enrich the north by bringing in your culture from outside, and the north enriches you by allowing you to invest in uplifting that culture.
Very true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very profound statement, and it's also something that I say to a lot of young artists, is that we tend to go to communities and ask these communities to support us, buy my album, attend my shows, show me love, support me. But how many times do we support these communities? What have you done for the communities that you've come from, or the ones that you are appealing to for this assistance? So I think it's something very important for musicians to always have a give back scheme within their music, because music, if you're creating it for the masses, that's not the only thing that you can give them. There's so much more. There's opportunities your creation which can actually help with the unemployment positions that we're seeing in South Africa percentage. So there's all of that. Then when I look at music as well, I start to say that in South Africa, one music that was really used to fight the apartheid government and bring about change was reggae music. Reggae music was a song that fought Babylon's system. It brought out black pride. It had so many important messages
and then
within
what did
it.
they do?
And the reggae music got silenced.
No. They killed Lucky Dube.
100%.
You understand? Who killed him?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't know.
Same people that are eating off him right now.
No doubt.
It's that simple. You know what I mean? I always wondered why my dad didn't like Bob Marley. My dad was because I was too young to understand.
Yeah.
I never knew that Peter Tosh and Bob Marley had a beef.
Okay.
Yeah, like I never knew that.
Yeah,
My dad never also explained it to me, because I think it was like their beef got too personal, too many things happened, and he was like, hey, this is not for kids to know.
Yeah.
But he was like, we don't listen to Bob Marley. Yeah, we like Peter Tosh. I was like, okay, but when I watch TV, everybody celebrates like the king of reggae is Bob Marley, and so I'm like, why is my dad like anti-Bob, like really like anti-Bob Marley?
100%.
You know, so another artist that my dad liked is Lucky Dube.
Okay.
That's our best-selling artist of all time, still the most streamed South African artist to this day. You know what I mean? It's not Tyler yet, you know, and he's got no means of reclaiming ownership of his music. He had the best-selling album, sold 1 million copies, got signed to Motown Records. You know, some could argue he's even bigger than Bob Marley. You know, after Bob Marley passed, because he had the whole entire African continent
behind him. Yeah.
Well, that he could tour, he could perform at the entire. Bob Marley came to Africa a couple of times, but
not. Yeah.
Didn't get the opportunity to do that a lot. You know what I mean? So reggae and hip hop also are very linked, because the people that started hip hop, were kids that were growing up when reggae was formulating its identity as well.
Yeah.
Also it was the Jamaican kids, a lot of them that were in the Bronx.
Yes, sound system culture.
All of that, that whole entire thing, the sound clashes that, they used to do that started the whole entire DJ battling thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, that's it. Everything that we have that is great, that is ours, ends up being owned by our oppressors. So then they own Bob Marley, and then he dies, and then everyone that's below him then suffers, because the front runner, the flag bearer, is now gone. Same thing happens with Lucky Dube. You know what I mean? Lucky Dube died when the year before, was it 2007? I can't remember. I think I was still in school.
I can't remember.
We can Google it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was still in school, and dude, I couldn't believe it, because I think I heard it on the news, and I was late for school that day. My dad was dropping me off from school, and they said, no, Lucky Dube has just been shot. So you can't continue the movement when the protagonists are gone.
100%.
And that's why they take them out. 18 October 2007.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
when he passed away.
Okay,
You know what
so
I mean?
you are on point with the dates, yeah.
Well, I remember certain dates because I remember which grade I was in. I was in grade 11.
All right, shout out.
So, yeah, man. It's just sad what's happening. Especially with reggae music, the reggae movement. And, Admiral and Jassy tried to keep it alive a lot. They had their baseline sessions. They had a radio show on YFM as well, which I was a very big fan of. And, Afrobeats came into the picture.
True.
And Afrobeats artists are willing to take the white money, whereas the Jamaican artists, the Caribbean artists, are not willing to sell out. They know what has happened. And so the record labels that run the entire business, is only 3 of them. Well, I guess there's now almost 2 of them, because the son of the CEO of Universal is now the CEO of Atlantic Records.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
that just
wow.
got announced, So, that's it. They own
That's
our
family
music.
right
They
there.
make us dance. They make us sing. We produce this culture, and then they pass it on to their kids,
That's crazy, because I mean that's what do they call that? When you're bringing your family into the business, nepotism. That's nepotism, and
well, I mean it's what Jewish people do.
Well, I guess
it's not
so.
nepotism when they do it.
100%. And, it's also crazy that as music creatives, people think that, when they create their company, they can actually go against the system. But it's actually, when you go to your digital distributor, whoever you go through, at the end of the day, your music is somehow going to pass through the hands of those 2 or 3 companies. It goes back there.
Well, all the music is streamed.
Yeah.
All the streaming companies are owned by the majors.
Exactly.
So that's their music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Kanye went against them, and then they took him out. He had to release his album with 4 different distributors on the day. He had to sign 4 different deals.
That's crazy.
He signed one deal. He uploaded the album. They called the guy, said, no, take Kanye off. He had to call another company. Take Kanye off. He had to call one company that had no Jewish people involved. And they said, damn it, this is Kanye. We're going to make money with him. Nonsense. Let's put up his music. And that's what it is. I actually went to Kanye's listening session in Miami.
Okay, yeah.
For Vultures, the first listening session. He was hosting it during Art Basel.
Okay.
And, I called Caesar Loma afterwards. I was like, damn, this is bad. Because if you've seen where Kanye has come from, he's always the guy who's always doing the biggest and the most major moves,
Yes.
the sickest moves, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw Kanye looking like a South African artist with the South African artist marketing budget. That's what I saw. What I was able to observe was the first time I'm able to see my icons listening session, and I'm able to be there.
Yeah.
And the only highlight is that he's there with his daughter. You know what I mean? It looks like some low level, and I was so heartbroken, and I was like, damn. like as big as this guy was, they can humble him like this,
Man.
you know. But he still pushed through, you know.
Yeah.
He still pushed. The album went to number 1, and we need more Kanye's to come out, even in the reggae music scene.
Yeah.
You know, it's just sad that the Afrobeats artists they don't pay tribute to reggae because obviously there's a gap between reggae and dancehall, because dancehall was the new iteration and the new fresher thing. And, you know, shout out to Vibes Cartel, he just got freed.
Yes, sir.
You know, and Buju Banton also got freed and was able to travel to the United States to do his first show in however many years, you know. But look at what they did to the artists. The artists couldn't make money. They end up getting in drug dealing or whatever it is to make money.
Yeah.
You know, they end up going to jail for 10, 13 years. By the time they come out, you know, it's another generation. You know, kids that were born when they went to jail are now 13 years old and their minds are already into other things.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and how do you reprogram them after that? So each and every time there's an emerging black movement that seeks to conscientize our people and get them back to our roots, there's something that the system does to ensure that the protagonists of that movement are either killed, silenced, jailed, or discredited to the point where no one even believes in them. You know what I mean?
Very true.
And so that's the sad tale that you know we are seeing play itself out. But you know, we need to support our movements, and through the determination of the people that stay true to the culture, you know, further generations are going to be encouraged by it. You know, they're going to look into that. We need to forget about the streaming, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even have Lucky Dube vinyls.
That's true. That's true.
Why? Because Gallo is sitting, you know, Gallo is sitting right here.
Yeah.
No, right here. There's a warehouse here. Right here.
Oh,
on
okay.
Marlborough.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
Opposite Renew It.
I didn't know
There's
that.
400,000 titles on different cassettes and everything else. 400,000 titles on original tape.
Wow.
400,000 titles. They're all sitting there.
That's crazy.
You bomb that thing, the whole history of South African music is gone since 1926.
Yo, that's flames right there. That needs to be protected and pushed
But it's
out.
not even being exploited. So the artists who made that, their families are not earning anything off of that.
course, yeah.
How is an archive of 400,000 titles? That's bigger than like the titles that the big recording companies in America have.
Man, that's very true. That is, it's incredible. The number you're telling me is
It's
insane.
sitting right here. Right here on Marlborough, right
That's
opposite
nuts.
Renew It.
I'm gonna check it out when I leave today. I'm gonna
You know
go
what I mean?
past, check it out.
Yeah. You
That's
know,
incredible.
and there's like a couple white folk that run that and, you know, own that. So, you know, unfortunately, I cut out a lot of our time, and we don't have much time. I could tell you more about this, but I mean, that's where Lucky Dube's stuff is. It's at Gallo,
Okay.
and they're not doing anything with it. And imagine what they could do if they could put it back in our hands, and we could protect it, and we could exploit it in an ethical way, and ensure that the families are taken care of, so that they don't see their father's image being used to enrich other people while they're suffering.
Of course, it would be so powerful. What you're speaking about is the plan that we all wish for as musicians. Everybody, when they create music, you're not just creating it for yourself, it's for your family. And when you pass away, you hope that it can feed your family and look after your family. And what you're saying is very important. If your music is getting taken and locked away, it's a problem, because how is your family being looked after? You're not achieving the goal that you set out for. So we need to find a way that we can empower empower the community of musicians to put pressure on the bigger labels, so that they do something like
We
that.
need the public to put pressure.
100%.
I need to put it to you in these terms. As black people, we all share one common trait. Yeah, we're born with generational debt.
That's true.
That's something we inherit.
That's true.
You know, it's not black tax, it's generational debt.
Yeah.
You know, and all we're trying to do is create generational wealth. And only the fortunate of us are able to do that. You know, and we need that to be a story. We need to archetype that, and also spread it down, trickle it down to all of us, so that, you know, our actions, you know, are to overcome the generational debt that we're born with, and to create generational wealth to leave behind.
100%.
Thank you for having me.
Not so, you know, I could speak to you all day, but this was so dope. I really enjoyed it. So knowledgeable. There's so much I just found out today. Man, thank you from the bottom of my heart. from Bogart Men Radio. We appreciate your presence. Thank you, thank you, my brother. And I hope this is the beginning of more. I hope we do more together. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I'd love to collaborate with you guys and also Bogart Men as well.
Definitely.
Sure.
Well, man, for the listeners out there, it's been a vibe. We went a little bit over our time that we usually put out there, but I can't be blamed. You felt that conversation like I did.
This is Bogart Man Radio.